Hi, my name is Leah Lovelight, and welcome to Reveal Microdose Conversations, designed to support you in your journey of radical self-acceptance and empowerment as a woman. We hope you enjoy the magic. All right, so welcome to the beautiful world out there. My name is Leah. I am the host for Reveal Microdose Conversations and the facilitator for Reveal Retreats. And oh my gosh, I am so excited to be able to share with you the wisdom of Adair Cates. She is a dear friend. Like, I have butterflies in my tummy right now. I'm just so excited to share your goodness. Adair came into my life one day at a big, huge conference, and she was like, "Are you going to be doing this thing called Exchange in the future?" And I said, "Are you going to be there?" And she said, "Yep." And I said, "I'm in." And from then on, I've been following her wherever she wants to go. She is a dynamic woman that brings such grace and heart into all presence. She is complete joy and so much fun. And really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being such a beautiful mentor to me and my world, and inspiring me to grow and stretch and be bigger and better. So Adair is a mom and a conscious leadership trainer. She's a facilitator and coach who has designed and facilitated thousands of one-on-one and group conversations to unlock potential and accelerate change. Using a strength-based method exchange approach, Adair has led everything from team engagement events to for organizations like Microsoft and Meta, also known as Facebook, to online TEDx gatherings, to multi-day women's retreats, to organization-wide conscious leadership development trainings, as well as dinner table conversations with her partner and their 5 children. Those are always her favorite, which I love so much. She is a master experience designer and a facilitator and a certified Heartmath Resilience Trainer with 15 plus years of experience in adult education, leadership development, and mindfulness. She is the author of 2 self-development books, Live with Intention and Fully Engaged. So Adair, thank you so much for being here. And I'd love to just say, is there anything you'd like to add to your amazing bio?
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here too. You're one of my favorite people. The only thing you didn't mention was how much we love dancing together. And that I'm pretty sure we became friends on the dance floor at that event before we talked about exchange training. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dance parties together are absolutely my favorite.
Me too. And just in a few weeks, we get to dance together again.
I'm ready.
So excited.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, thank
And
you.
we showed up like kind of wearing the same shirt-ish.
I know.
So this was not planned, but
Not planned at all,
happen.
but here we are. Sexy chic.
Love it.
Yeah. So I would love to just start this conversation. One of the things that I know you and I both value, and something that's important to you, that's a pillar for Reveal as well, is this idea of self-care, and not necessarily self-care like getting your nails done or your hair done, but this deeper sense of self-care and coming from the inside out. And so I would love to invite you to share anything you might like around that.
Yeah. So I love that when I think back on, the last, I don't know, however many years it's been, like the term self-care is out there, right? I love that. I think it's great. I think if we looked, 30 years ago, we probably would rarely even hear the word self-care. So I'm really grateful that that's in the lexicon, of the collective now. What I sometimes wonder is, what do people mean when they say self-care? And that could be anything from, like you said, getting your hair done, getting a pedicure, some of these important, don't get me wrong, but maybe more superficial ways of taking care of ourselves. When what I believe about self-care is that it's about a word that I use and we use in our conscious leadership training, is it's about being resourced. And when we are well resourced from within, we are in a place where our brain and our body and our whole being is able to think clearly, be fully present, pay attention to the things that matter the most, because we are coming from a place of overflow. We have given to ourselves the gift of resourcing ourselves. And we can talk about, at some point, we can talk about different ways that we can resource ourselves, because that's a big piece of what we do in our conscious leadership training as well. Is, it's not about just thinking about it or knowing that we need to take care of ourselves. It's actually practicing every single day. It's, I've had a morning routine for the last 15 years. Like, I wake up before everybody in my house. I do breath work. I journal. I do gratitude. I pray. I read spiritual text, whatever it might be. And it's a discipline. It is a practice. It is not something that we can just think about and hope will, happen in our lives. We have to actively practice it. And we especially have to practice it when the shit hits the fan, when things get really hard, because that helps us to really adapt in other difficult times. That to me is the definition of resilience, to be able to practice resourcing ourselves through hard things, so that when we face something else hard, we're able to access that well within to manage whatever comes our way.
I really appreciate that. And it's so funny because I'm in a space right now where I'm in a go, go, go time in my life. And what I can hear myself almost saying is, but where do we find time to resource?
Oh, yeah.
And I love that you said in the morning is a great time, because if we take care of ourselves first, it's done. You can check that off the to-do list for the day. But what you're sharing is a little bit deeper than that. And so what are some really beautiful ways to encourage or invite or support others to slow down so that they can experience this exponential change that you're talking about, being sourced from within, so that we can overflow into others?
Yeah. And I'll just kind of reflect back this idea of busyness, this idea of, we were just talking about it as we were preparing, like time both feels like sometimes it's flying so fast. And also sometimes in certain situations, it feels like it's standing still. Like time in and of itself is quite elusive. And if we think about where we are in the trajectory of, history and the way things are right now, it's like and this is another thing we talk a lot about at our conscious leadership training, is that we're in a place as humans where our ability to adapt to the world, to the technology, to the pace that things are moving, we are unequipped to do that the old way that we did it before, which was go, 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 more. Let's try and keep up. And I think it's absurd. It's absolutely impossible. And we've already seen the results of that. That leads to burnout. It leads to anxiety. It leads to depression. It leads to increased suicide rates. I mean, just look at where we are right now. And so I believe the antidote to that is what you're saying, which is slow down. And slowing down means a lot of things. And I think we can actually just start with our breath. If we just slow our breath down, it's the easiest way to resource ourselves. It's the easiest way for us to hit pause on whatever's happening, or we've heard for years and years, count to 10, well, breathe deeply while you're doing that. And that will help you slow down. So I think it all starts with breath. It's fundamental. I was a huge breath skeptic. I never thought a deep breath actually worked, because I was always a go, 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 go person. And my mom would say things like, the two words my mom said to me most growing up were slow down, take a deep breath. And I get it now. It took me, 44 years, but I get it now. So slowing down can look like a pause to take a deep breath. Slowing down can look like, I'm going to give myself an hour before my family wakes up to, meditate, do gratitude in my journal, whatever it might be. Or I'm going to slow down by looking at my schedule and figuring out, like, I don't need to be on back-to-back Zoom calls all day. Like I should have 3 or 4 hours of buffer time to think, to walk in the woods. One of my favorite things to do is to walk on the trail by our house and just be in nature. So slowing down can mean a lot of different things, but I believe that is actually our edge. So instead of trying to keep up with the pace of change, that's impossible. So if we slow down, what happens is we get resourced. And when we're resourced, our brain and our body connect in a way that helps us access the higher level of thinking that's in our, prefrontal cortex versus us being in survival mode. So slowing down is the easiest way for us to think more clearly, connect more deeply, pay more attention to what matters, think about our thinking, tune in to what we might be feeling. Because how often have we been going through life and just going through the motions, but we never actually stopped to see if what we were doing resonated in our heart, that it was actually something that we care about? Or am I just saying yes because I feel like I got to be busy and I got to do stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm appreciating about what you're saying right now is I know that when I was in the beginning of my healing journey, my transformation journey, I would say, like, it would be weird to say awakening journey because I know that's a forever perpetual process.
That's never ending. Yeah.
But I almost resisted the slowing down because to be with just me was overwhelming. And and that's because I'm a dynamic human being, and I know I'm not alone on that. So if there's somebody that's out there resisting being with themselves, what is something that we might be able to invite them? I know you said do a short breath, and I know you gave good going into nature, but what is something they might be able to ask themselves to support the slow down process, to create that inner conversation?
Yeah. And I love where you're going with this, because I do think that inquiry can play a huge role in us, slowing down, tuning in, and it may feel a little less scary than, just opening a blank page of your journal and free writing for 10 minutes or whatever it might be. So I think questions, one of my favorite questions is a question from Dr. Danny. And his book, Leading Well from Within, was foundational in our conscious leadership training that we do. And a question he asked was, what matters most right now? What matters most? It's a simple question. And if you'll take the time to combine breath and a question, then oftentimes you'll hear an answer that wouldn't have been there if you wouldn't have taken the time to breathe first. So offering yourself the pause to just breathe. And if you want to take it to even more of a level, hold your own heart. Your brain is going to engage because your brain is just talking to you all day long. But sometimes your brain is overriding your heart over and over again because that's how we've been trained. And so just taking a moment, holding your own heart, taking 2 or 3 deep breaths, heart breaths, and then asking what matters most right now is a really, really powerful way to just see what emerges. And, when we ask questions of ourselves, we don't know what answers are going to come out. And maybe some answers will feel a little bit scary. I've absolutely been in places where I've asked myself questions and the answer is not something that I wanted to hear. So inquiry can be helpful. The other thing I was going to say is just this idea of co-regulation. If you feel like you're unable to self-regulate, which is another way of saying resourcing yourself, it's regulating your nervous system, balancing the parasympathetic and sympathetic sides of your nervous system. This regulation, we're wired to co-regulate. So if I know that when I co-regulate with you, I'm resourced, then that can be a shortcut that feels less scary than me trying to do it by myself. And so who are the people in your life that when you're with them or after you've been with them, your energy has upticked? You feel more whole inside. You're smiling afterwards. And using co-regulation as a shortcut when you're feeling like you can't do it yourself. And that's a learning for me in my life, is like, I've been a very much a self-regulator for a long time because of the way I was raised and born. And I felt like nobody had time to deal with me. And I was kind of an emotional, sensitive kid. So I had to learn how to like do a lot of my own stuff. However, co-regulation can be incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You're one of my favorite to co-regulate with.
I would say, yeah. I'll co-regulate with you
Let's have a
anytime.
co-regulating party. That could be like the next, like, instead of happy hour, co-regulation parties.
I love it. I love it. Well, and even just where we started, like, what did we say? Dancing, right?
Yeah.
Movement. So there's lots of ways we can resource ourselves. It doesn't have to just be like in the morning with our journal doing breath work. Like maybe for you, it's a yoga class. Maybe it's dancing with your best friend in person or on Zoom, whatever it might be. But there's lots and lots of tools that we can use, and all of them, you know what works for you because it fills you up.
Yeah.
And lots of things you wouldn't even think about are resourcing and their self-care.
Absolutely.
So, and that's personal for everybody. Like there's lots of, but a lot of these things are well researched, you know, like shaking is a huge nervous system healing that we see in nature, right? When animals are under stress, to let it out, they shake. And so that's all the research that Peter Levine did. You know, same thing with humans. And so dancing is literally a way that we shake, right? And we let go of things that we may have been holding on to.
Yeah, I love this. So, what before we jumped on and started recording, we took this idea of resourcing and took it a little bit deeper
Mm,
into being a quiet influence within ourselves. And
mm,
you and I had shared a little bit and conversed a little bit around when we are able to influence ourselves from the inside out, our external world will magnetize towards us what it
mhm,
is that we want. And so
mhm.
I would love to just hear your perspective on that idea because it was such good juiciness when we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that we've come to realize about the conscious leadership training that we do with Exchange, and I do this a lot with my partner, John, is we've realized that, wow, what we're teaching people in a lot of ways has to do with influence. And that was something that Dr. Danny also said, you know, leadership isn't a role, it is an act of influence. And his belief was, you know, we influence from our internal state out into the world. And that's, you know, that's what we're talking about here. And it is true. And that is also why this is in these times where things are going so fast, this is the most efficient way to move in the world, because you become attractive to things, because you are in a place where your whole body and brain and everything is in alignment in a way that things come to you. And, you know, some may think, oh, well, it sounds like you're talking about the law of attraction. And in some ways it is. But the law of attraction typically doesn't talk much about like our actual like nervous system energetics, right? So when we are in a place where we're feeling aligned on the inside, our ability to, one, influence other people is at its maximum. And just think about it, makes total sense because someone of influence, they're present, they're clear, they're asking good questions, they're engaging you in a conversation that's elevating. That's influence, right? And so all of the pieces we're talking about being resourced in our brain and our body and everything working as one, we're able to show up in a way that's, you know, it's magnified when we're resourced.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And then when we think about, so that's with people, influencing people, but when we also think about, you know, intentions or goals or things that we're looking to create in our life, it's a similar way of being, right? When we start to embody what it is that we choose for our lives, I'm sure you've heard this, like you need to feel it first. That is train your nervous system. Train your nervous system to receive a certain type of client or receive a certain amount of money. And once you've trained your nervous system to do that, and that thing shows up, it's like a natural next step. It's not like oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's like, oh yeah, this thing. And I gave the example, well, while we were talking before of like this house that we live in. This house came to us in this very serendipitous way. And it was very hard to find a house. I was looking for this, in the middle of like the crazy end of 2021 time frame. And multiple bids going up on houses and all of this stuff that was just ridiculous. And then this house just kind of like flowed and it happened. And when I walked into this house for the first time, I was like, yes. And it was this feeling of like peace and connection. And like, that was it. Not like, oh my gosh, this is my new house. This is so cool. I love this. It was just like, yes, which is totally different, right? It's a different feeling. And it's interesting because as I'm saying that, it reminds me of like old, I think it was maybe like Abraham Hicks that I used to listen to. Whenever Abraham Hicks would talk about like law of attraction stuff, they would say it's like the next logical step. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense, because when you're embodied and resourced and you're able to feel what that would feel like, then it is like the next logical step.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a sense of embodiment. That is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it is the be that is present now. So I
Yes.
love that. I love
Yes.
that so much. Okay, well, in honoring of time and making sure that we keep these to microdose conversations, I know that
Yes.
you have an Awaken Conscious Leadership workshop that's coming up on June 1st. So, and
Yes.
I will share the link in the comments below
Perfect.
when, in the video, but what would you want to share about that workshop so that people kind of understand what they would be coming to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just so everyone knows, this is typically something that we do privately inside of our exchange community for the most part. And so this is an invitation, a push out, kind of a special thing that we're doing. And it's going to be a 2 hour kind of a micro experience of a 3 day training that we're leading in July 18th through the 20th. And so coming to that session, it will be a session to resource yourself. You will learn more about the neuroscience of influence, like we've talked about. We'll talk about resourcing ourselves and, kind of the context of what's happening in the world and how we can really amplify our influence in the world through conscious leadership. And it's interactive. It'll be engaging. You'll be conversing with people, like-minded people in breakout rooms, and we'll do some resourcing together with some breathing, I'm sure, or some visualization, meditation type of practices. And yeah, would love to have you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I can definitely speak to the work for sure because the multi-day training I've been through multiple times now at this point. And so even getting that 2 hour wisdom bomb for anyone that is able to join, I know that it will directly impact your life that day and quite honestly
Mm-hmm.
moving forward because it will give you a new perspective. So famous last question, is there anything else you would like to share?
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like I've shared a lot of my heart and my wisdom and what matters most to me right now. I would just say, it is a priority to resource yourself for a lot of reasons. One, just for your own well-being, and for the benefit of your loved ones and the relationships in your life, but also, again, just to amplify your influence, to stand out in the world, to be attractive to the things that you want. And it takes practice. It takes practice.
Yeah.
And just giving yourself the gift of deep breathing a few times a day. These changes are incremental. However, what they lead to is exponential. And so giving yourself the gift of these incremental ways of resourcing yourself is going to lead you to an exponentially more aligned life. So I'll leave with that.
I love that. Big wisdom bomb right there at the end. Well, Adair, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and just to share your wisdom. I highly recommend to anyone who's listening to this now or in the future to check out the Awakened Conscious Leadership and to also check out Exchange as well. Pivotal in my life of improvement for me as a facilitator, me as a human being. And so I believe in the work. And so I would definitely encourage anyone else to. So for those of you that are on the broadcast with us, thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. And for everyone else, thank you so much, whether you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're hearing this. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your yes to resourcing yourself through this microdose conversation. So thank you. Thanks.
Yeah,
Adair.
it was an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, thank you.